Hi, Isabel.
Nice to see you. I was having earlier. Susan, it's a great honor for me to be chatting with you today at lunchtime. I'm a huge fan of what your work, and I'm wearing my flowered dress in your honor
I
because
love it.
flowers, and I had the chance to meet you at a book event in Brome Lake. And it was a great meeting because both of our passions collided, books and art and
Right.
creativity and color. And immediately when I saw your art, I was really, really drawn in. Susan, I'm going to switch into French for a second. Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis désolée, on avait dit qu'on commencerait à midi, mais il y a eu des petits problèmes techniques. Alors, c'est un apprentissage pour tout le monde, n'est-ce pas? Je suis ici avec Susan Pepler, qui est une artiste qui habite dans les cantons de l'Est. C'est une femme exceptionnelle que j'ai eu la chance de rencontrer dans un événement littéraire où nos deux passions se sont rencontrées. Susan partageait ses œuvres d'art lors de cet événement-là. Et j'ai eu un énorme coup de cœur pour l'art de Susan parce qu'elle peint des magnifiques tableaux avec des fleurs qui sont, on les voit derrière elle actuellement. Et puis, c'est féminin, c'est coloré, c'est beau. Et à mon avis, Susan, tu apportes beaucoup de beauté dans le monde. Tu apportes beaucoup de joie aux gens à travers ton art. Et puis, c'est quelque chose que les gens ont vraiment besoin actuellement. Je pense qu'on a tous besoin de plus de beauté dans notre vie. Et tu communiques ça à travers non seulement tes tableaux, mais aussi tes newsletters, tous les envois que tu fais pour inspirer les gens. Donc, merci beaucoup de faire ça et puis d'inspirer le monde et d'apporter de la beauté dans notre vie.
C'est un plaisir, c'est ma mission dans la vie, d'apporter la beauté.
Mm-hmm. I think we should start with you reading this wonderful note that you received by someone recently. And it's so apropos about our talk together today and what we're discussing.
Yes, I got this yesterday from a doctor client and her husband who's also in the medical field, and they have one or two of my big paintings in their home. So she wrote, and I haven't heard from her for probably since I sold the painting over a decade ago, but she wrote, we're both frontline workers, so pretty tired these days. Just wanted to thank you for the positivity that your paintings have brought to me, both in my home and in these emails. But this is the last line that blew me away. She said, now that's real medicine. I'm like, oh, ça touche ma cœur.
Oui. I mean, that really speaks to me on many levels. That, you know, medicine doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of traditional medicine. That's something that I like to talk about. Beauty and nature are definitely a form of medicine. And there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, the one thing that saved me in the last couple of months from feelings of loneliness and separation, nature, and occasionally buying myself a bouquet at the local grocery store was also helpful.
Good.
Yeah, but I think your art, the way you communicate it is medicine. So kudos to you for doing it.
Thank you. That was the first time I'd heard it called medicine. I've heard it, it called therapeutic. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel happy. So I've heard that angle, but medicine, I love that.
So do I. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So Susan, can you tell us a little bit how you got started as an artist? One of the topics I love to talk about in my conferences and workshops is going for your dreams. And, we talk about that a lot. And I think this time of, the slowdown that we all went through was a great opportunity for a lot of us to lives and where we want to go. So can you talk to us about how you became an artist, and maybe after that you can talk about how you transitioned from the corporate world to the artistic world?
Sure. Before I was an artist, I was just very visually wired. I would see everything, and prefer, as I got a little bit older than being a little girl, I preferred movies to watching a book. And my mom would always say, why don't you go read a book? I'm like, I'd rather watch the movie. So I've always been visual, taking in the world visually, and noticing beautiful things, emotionally beautiful or physically beautiful, gardens and things like that. So needless to say, I didn't do very well in science or math, but ended up following an artistic career, and I loved coloring and crayons in the early days. So I ended up working in advertising. I did get a degree in fine arts and a diploma in illustration, but it was really in advertising that I gained the what do they call it? The swing of the brush, but we were coloring with magic markers and drawing concepts for television commercials. So that's really where I learned to make things look beautiful. In university, they kind of encourage you to be soul searching and stuff. Well, when I was 21, I didn't really know what that meant. But yeah, so I worked in advertising for several years and then switched over to painting exactly 20 years ago. And I've loved it. And switching from the marker to the paintbrush was a piece of cake. It just flowed. So I started painting full time then. And over those years, I've had to learn to become a businesswoman because I wasn't really in the corporate world. I was on the creative side of advertising,
Right.
doing what I was told. So yeah, I had to learn the business part.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing that impresses me is that you not only learned the business part, but you're thriving in the business part. And that's absolutely wonderful to see.
Thanks.
To see, because a lot of artists, you should do an online course for artists. I think that would be a really great tool for everyone.
Yeah, that may happen. I remember one of our first rendezvous after we'd met, sitting at the marina here. Neither of us really knew what we were doing, but we were super excited to be learning about the online world and growing our baby businesses at that point.
Yeah, and here we are. Here we are.
Yeah, kudos to you too, Isabelle.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So can you tell us a little bit how you get your ideas? Because you are very prolific and you have all these beautiful paintings and a lot of really neat concepts. So where do you get all your ideas?
Like I said, I see everything. If I go to a cocktail party, I could come home and tell you what everybody's shoes were because I take it all in visually. Can't help it. So I see, for example, a bunch of roses at the market, still packed tight like these were in a bunch. And I think, oh, that could be a painting. I got the idea recently to throw some peonies in a paper bag just to add that sort of cool color of, well, in this case, the Tiffany & Company turquoise that I love and wear. It's nonstop, the ideas and inspiration. And as I travel, I look for them too. I may do even a series of safari paintings because I went to Africa last year. That'll be a very big change. I'm not quite ready for that because there's not as much color as there is in flowers and gardens. But I've painted the lake at the end of the street here. I'll paint anything that makes me think, oh, this feels and looks beautiful and makes me feel happy. I'll paint. And that's kind of my mission, as you know, is bring happy.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And you are inspired by fashion, which is something that really speaks to me because it's the topic of a lot of my books and what I'm passionate about too. And so what are your thoughts? I'm curious, do you have any like favorite things? How you paint handbags, for example, with flowers, and I've seen shoes, I think, if I'm not mistaken, or perfume bottles, maybe?
Perfume bottles, yes. I love painting perfume bottles.
Mm-hmm.
What was the question again?
Does fashion inspire you? Are you inspired by what people wear?
I would say, yes, style more than fashion. But yeah, I'm not sure what the difference is. But yeah, I find it fun to think of painting, like you said. These are paper bags, like the Tiffany bag, but I've also got in that series some beautiful purses with flowers spilling out of them. And they just sort of speak fun. They say, this is fun. Well, I don't know where anyone would put them, maybe in a dressing room or a little girl's room.
Yeah.
But I'm having a lot of fun painting those. They're a little more quirky than my usual stuff, which I love also.
Mhm. Well, I like to think that there is a difference between style and fashion. Style is very individual. It's how you express your creativity. It doesn't mean you're wearing, a head to toe designer. You're just having fun with it. And you can be shopping at a thrift store or vintage shop. And whereas fashion is more,
Sure.
about change and following trends, that's the difference that I see. But I like the fact
Mm.
that you're inspired by style more than fashion. That really speaks to me too.
Oh, I'm glad I made that distinction then.
That's really good. Very, very good. So you have a lot of canvases on the go. I think 15, is that right?
uh, Give or take, actually more, there's probably more, but I'd say 15 just to cap it.
So what's your process? Do you work on one on a particular day? You wake up saying, I'm going to work on one, or you dabble, or you work on all of them? What's your process like?
The most I would work on probably in one day, unless it was an 8-hour day of painting, which is rare, is 2. And I might do, say, 3 or 4 roses on the roses, and then be like, rosed out, and switch over to something else. I'm also working on, I don't know if I can see it, if you can see if I turn this, a painting of pearls over there. And
Uh,
they're really labor intensive. So 2 a day at the most, usually. That would be my norm. And then it just gives me a fresh perspective. Plus it's wet, so I need to get it out of the way and let it dry before I can go back at it. And it's acrylic, so they do dry quickly.
do you work outside at all, or only indoors?
I would say never. I like having everything really handy, my rolling trays and my brushes. But I have a beautiful studio here in Knowlton, so the patio doors are open in the summer, the windows are open. It almost feels outside. I've got 2 full walls of window space.
Well, you give the impression that you're outdoors, with all these beautiful, flowers and nature.
Yeah, well, I'm bringing the outdoors indoors in a way.
Right? Yes, you are, definitely.
Yeah.
You say that your mission is to bring beauty. Has it always been the case? Have you
Mm.
always been inspired by beautiful things?
I've always noticed them, and then when I was learning to draw and paint, I was just more concentrated on drawing and painting. And then when I did my first exhibition 20 years ago, I painted a little bit of everything. Big jungle scenes, vintage cars. That's a series that's sold out right now, but I painted about 75 of them. I already forgot the question.
The question was, have you always been inspired by beautiful things?
It's becoming more about beauty than representation. In the beginning, it was more representation. Can I paint a car? How would it look?
Hmm.
And because of my advertising experience, I learned to make things beautiful, which was my goal. And now I just find beautiful things and replicate them in the most beautiful way that I can.
Hmm. How important is it to have a very positive mindset? One of the things that I tell people in my conferences is how it's really important to focus on our thoughts. Our thoughts create things. I'm a student of the law of attraction. I really believe in all of that. As a painter, we've heard stories about the tortured artist or the struggling artist. How important is it to have positive thoughts? When you wake up in the morning, are you feeling upbeat and looking forward to your art?
Um, it's very important to answer the question. If I'm in a low state, it's kind of a catch-22 thing though too. If I'm in a low state, I don't want to paint because I'm thinking I'm going to wreck it because I'm in such a bad mood or whatever. But I'm never in that kind of a state for very long. I shouldn't say never, usually not. And at the same time, if I can get myself to paint, put the music on. Johnny Cash is my go-to guy for painting, and Leonard Cohen. There's a few more, but Johnny's really my number one. And set myself up to paint and start painting. I will forget the whole world and whatever problems were bringing me down and enjoy the process of painting immensely.
So you
And wonder why I waited so long to do this again. Even if it's a couple of days.
right. It gets you back into the flow.
Oh, it recalibrates me. It makes me feel so happy. Yeah, it just brings me back to goodness.
The medicine. It's the medicine.
Yeah, and I think in anyone's case, whether it's writing or painting or music, you know, to get back to that after being or even on the verge of a low state, recalibrate, because it's you're doing your thing. I heard this story of a man who was really cranky, and his wife said, "Have you been writing?" He was a writer. No, I haven't written in a week. Why? So she said, "Go upstairs and write in your room, and don't come down till." It sounds like she's talking to a child, but maybe he was childlike. Anyway, so he went up, he disappeared into his room, and he wrote for a couple hours. He came back,
A new man.
a new man, yeah, because he was again anchored in his calling and gift.
Yes. Ah, now you're talking my language.
Okay.
Talking my language. That's something that I love to talk about. I think probably because I was not on my mission and not on my calling for so long. I was a corporate lawyer, and then I had to meet a psychic who told me to get on my mission. And today I'm very passionate about encouraging people to follow their dreams. And I've talked about it. It's not always simple. It's not an easy journey, but it's so worthwhile, because when you wake up, like you said, and you're so happy doing what you love. What advice would you give for anyone wanting to paint, either for pleasure or eventually as a career?
I can't remember if we talked about that on that last video or this one, last one, about setting up your corner. Okay, so I'll just say it again. That was the video that didn't happen. It disappeared into the ethos.
Yes.
So yeah, to get started painting, people think, oh, I just need to go and paint, but it's much simpler than that, because that's a big step. Oh, I should be painting is like doesn't help. But if you set up a corner, and this is what I tell people, set up a corner in your house with your easel, your brushes, a bucket of water, your rags, your trays for mixing paint, everything you need. And I use rolling tables, but whatever works, whatever you have, set it up and don't even start painting yet. Just set that up, and it'll be hard over time to not go there if it's right there. But if you just keep thinking, oh, I should really be painting, I wish I could paint more, and there's no place to go and do it, inviting place, then that's the stumbling block. And then I would say, look at the world, or in your own mind if you paint from your imagination, and start thinking, because ideas are endless for inspiration.
So start by setting up a space.
Yeah, set up a little corner to paint in.
Great.
And that will draw you. You'll be like, oh, I want to go sit over there and paint.
Yeah, I want to play.
Want to play, exactly.
And can you tell us a little bit how you were able to develop a strong business sense? That's something that I find very interesting about you, and I admire what you do to get out there, all the tools that you use, and you're taking marketing classes, and you've become like a fantastic marketer. Do you have any questions or things that you want to share about that?
For like people in general in whatever business they're in?
Well, particularly, let's say
creative business,
but anyone in general.
Yeah. I would say for sure take an online course about marketing or business in your field. Like there's artist coaches that I've followed and worked with over the years, or life coaches are amazing. It's because marketing is really letting people know what you're doing in a way that is relevant to them, and in a way less about you. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned most recently, is it's not about me. It's about the world and the people in my world and what they need and what they long for. And I'm discovering, because that learning process is never ending, that in my case, it's a desire for beauty, which is also my desire. I long to be surrounded by beautiful or whatever. I guess that's, I don't mean it to be a judgment on anybody's style, but I like things that I love to see around me. And even if the house is a mess, if I love that beautiful couch with the cushions and pajamas and a blanket all whatever thrown on it, then I'm happy. So I have a need to see beauty around me, and it nourishes me on a deep level.
Mhm. Yeah, that's fantastic. So you've learned to market yourself in a way that you're not necessarily selling, but you're sharing.
Yeah, marketing is just letting people know what you're doing. I remember that changed my life. And then just hearing that, another cool thing I learned was from a coach many, many years ago, was that selling is actually loving. Because he said, I brush my hair for my wife, I doll myself, I groom, whatever, I keep my hair cut properly, I dress nicely, I put on some cologne, I'm kind, I listen to my wife, and I thought, well, if that's what selling is, I can do that. Just showing up in a loving way with whoever you are and what you're doing.
Right, right. Oh, I love that. I love that. It's comparing grooming to sharing.
Yeah, and that selling is that's right. I forgot the punchline. He said, I sell myself to my wife every day. And I thought, what? Like, we got off the phone and I thought, what does he mean? And I thought, and I thought of all that list of things. I groom myself, I brush my teeth, I'm kind, I listen, I show up. And I thought, well, then that's sort of like selling equals loving, because he's loving his wife in the way that he's selling himself to her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful, Susan. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I love it. Do you have any specific advice for anyone out there who's an artist? Any particular tips? Your number one tip.
Number one tip, just do it. I love that Nike slogan, just do it. And you'll pick up all the other tips you need if you just start doing it.
Right. It's like writing, right? People say, oh, I want to write a book, and they're already thinking about publishing, but they haven't put pen to paper, right? So
yeah. Have you read the book, The War of Art, Isabelle?
Mm-hmm.
So that's all about, that's about showing up, fighting the resistance that makes you not show up. And it's in the showing up at the drawing table or the writing, the computer, keyboard, that's going to sort of let your plane take off.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That is my favorite book. I tell everyone they should get a copy. They should buy it. They should study it. I open it randomly some days, and it's always bang on. So
yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Steven Pressfield.
Yeah, me too.
Can we talk a little bit about what inspires you, and where do you get all of your inspiration?
I would say it seems like it's out there, not in here. And what I find out there in the world, I change by painting it into something else or more noticeable than it was when it was out there. But I know some artists are inspired from within. I mean, I guess it's a catch-22 circle also, because I want to find beauty, so I'm looking for it. So that comes from within, that I want to find it. It's endless. To me, it's endless inspiration. I'll never run out. People have said, well, what if you run out of ideas? It's impossible. Look at the world. It's full of beauty. It's full of inspiration and beautiful things and people, and it's just unlimited.
We talked a little bit previously about how you had to cancel some of your shows because of what happened in the last few months.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me you were able to pivot very easily, and you came up with this amazing idea to show people your art in some beautiful homes, country homes, farmhouses all over Canada. How did you come up with that idea? I thought it's great.
Well, I guess a few months ago I decided, because the business people say you need to write an email every week or you'll be forgotten. So I thought, oh my gosh, I can't be forgotten. So I'll write every week. So I started sending out every Saturday morning an email, and that made me sort of search for different things to talk about. And then the whole staying at home thing, I thought, people are getting maybe so tired of staying at home. I'm going to invite them to go to some other homes in a way through my emails and the pictures. And they loved it. So it was just, creative thinking and looking at what's happening in the world and trying to bring joy and solutions to people through my emails, my newsletter.
Showing that you can be confined, but you can still find beauty at home. You don't have to be going out to, fancy
Yeah,
restaurants or places or museums. You can find it within the comfort of your own home.
that's right. Well, one client called me recently after staying at home so much, and she had a big clock over the fireplace, and called me, and I took over a big, beautiful painting of peonies in a blue and white vase, and we put it over her fireplace. And she said, since you left, I think she called me that afternoon. She said, since you left, we haven't left this room. I mean, we went from this morning being tired of being in the house to we can't leave the room. We did go get a glass of wine. It was the afternoon, and we're sitting here sipping it, just gazing at the painting and how beautiful the room feels. So I thought, that's what I paid for.
Yes, that is amazing. That's an amazing story. I love it. Absolutely love it. So what are your plans going forward? Do you have anything you want to share? What's up going forward for you?
Well, all these new paintings that I've been working on, I'm going to try and find a way without having a show, obviously, because I can't. I had 3 exhibitions canceled this summer, which is fine. It's given me more time to paint. But so I'm going to try and think of a way to maybe do this, although we had our technical issues already today, do a Zoom to Facebook thing where it's a live studio tour of the paintings. And even invite people to dress up and, pour their own glass of champagne and come to the party online. That's one idea. And then I'll also launch them through my newsletter at some point.
That's a great idea.
Maybe before that. Anyway, I haven't quite figured out the strategy. But yeah, it would be to get these paintings out in the world and make them available for people.
Yes, I think there are creative ways, right? Creative ways to get out there and to share and mingle virtually for now.
Yeah.
So we can have events and shows. Fantastic. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And what's your summer going to be like? More painting in your...
More painting and gardening. I've learned to love gardening because I had a house in the city that was downtown, Victorian house, and with a shade garden and big trees. It was beautiful. But now here I can grow anything. I have like almost too much sun. My impatience won't even survive it. It's so sunny, but that means I can grow almost anything. So loving gardening. I'm growing even my own peonies to bring in and paint on these paintings. And just discovering a lot about gardening and hopefully getting together with some friends and family a little more as things get loosened up.
Right. Well, I'm sure the gardening will inform and inspire you.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure. Well, Susan, it's been wonderful chatting. You are an inspiration to a lot of us, and thank you very much for taking the time. If people have questions, they can find you on your website. You're very, very present on social media, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. And I certainly hope that you're going to launch an online course one of these days. Because I think
about painting or marketing, we talked about both.
Both. I think you would be a terrific teacher.
Thank you. Well, I'll keep you in the loop.
Thank you very much, Susan.
My pleasure. Thank you, Isabelle. So now are you able to end this?
I just did.
All right.